Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, President Academy of Sciences Malaysia, Professor Datuk Wira Dr. Raha Abdul Rahim, Vice Chancellor, University Technical Malaysia Melaka, Professor Datuk Engineer Dr. Abdul Wahab Muhammad, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation, Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, Professor Datuk Engineer Dr. Muhammad Saleh Jaafar, Head Science Technology and Innovation Cluster, Academy of Professors Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Zaharul. I'm Research Officer at the Academy of Professors Malaysia, come MC for today's webinar. It is with pleasure I welcome all of you to this webinar entitled 1010 STIE Framework, Can Universities and Academia Rise to the Challenge? Organized by Science, Technology and Innovation Cluster, Academy of Professors Malaysia. For your information, Academy of Professors Malaysia, or APM, is an NGO that functions as a think tank that combines expertise and mobilizes strategic thinking of professors to develop society. APM is an association which is academic-driven, inclusive, includes professors from public and private universities, independent without political intervention, equipped with high integrity, authoritative, professional, practicing genuine academic freedom. At the moment, APM has 350 members, comprising 34 fellows, 227 ordinary members, and 89 associate members. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Datuk Engineer Dr. Saleh Jaafar to moderate the webinar. Please welcome Dr. Saleh.
Thank you, Zaharul, Dr. Zaharul. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail, our main speaker today. Datuk Wira Professor Raha, Vice Chancellors of University Technical Melaka, Malaysia, and Professor Datuk Dr. Abdul Wahab, Deputy Vice Chancellors for Research and Innovation, UKM, our two discussants for today's program. Participants from academia, ministries, and relevant agencies, industry leaders, and friends of the media. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Welcome to the webinar series brought to you by the Academy Professor Malaysia. Advocating evidence-based policies for nation building is one of the key activities by the Academy Professor. The Academy have had so many such advocacy programs ranging from the socio-economic, food security, environment, medical, and also health issues. Today is the first program by the Academic Professor for STI-related policies. Today, inshallah, we will hear and discuss about the 1010 STIE framework, which was produced by the Academy Science Malaysia and recently launched by Yang Berhormat Musti Minister. We believe that this is a very important document to be understood by all, especially the academia, policymakers, government agencies, and also industry leaders. For today, our discussion will focus on how university and academia can rise to the challenge and hopefully help nation buildings using the 1010 STIE framework. Inshallah, for this program, we will have Professor Dato' Asma as the main speaker to highlight to us the key messages and the importance of the document. We will have, inshallah, between 50 to 60 minutes for her presentation. And it's going to be followed by the two discussants representing the views, hopefully, from the leaders of the technical universities and also research universities. We hope to also we hope also to open to your questions related to this topic, and we appreciate it if you can write the questions in the chat box later on. Is going to be provided, and hopefully after that question and answer session. After the question and answers, we will have a main speaker about 5 minutes for the closing remark. So that's how the program will flow today, inshallah. But before we proceed, allow me to introduce our main speaker, who actually do not need any introduction, by the way. But for the record, allow me to introduce her, inshallah. Professor Datuk Dr. Asma Ismail is a woman of many firsts. She was the first female Vice Chancellor of University of Science Islam Malaysia in 2012 and the first female Vice Chancellor of University of Science Malaysia 2016-2019, making her the first woman to be appointed twice as Vice Chancellors of a public university. She had served as the country's first female Director General of Higher Education and is currently the first female President of Academy Science Malaysia. She also served as the first female to be chairperson for Malaysian Qualification Agency (MQA). Her current position is at the Ibn Sina Chair for Medicine at International University in Malaysia. She also serves as honorary professor at the Institute of Research and Molecular Medicine (USM) and associate research fellow at the Biotechnology Research Institute, University in Malaysia, Sabah. Professor Asma's field of expertise in medical microbiology and medical biotechnology had facilitated scientific discoveries in diagnostic biomarkers that have led to the attainment of 15 patents and commercializations of rapid diagnostic tests for typhoid, which was actually advocated by the World Health Organization. As a researcher, she had published over 130 papers, received more than 213 awards and recognitions, presented more than 425 papers, including 376 invited talks plenaries, and 48 keynote, both national and international speakers, international levels. In short, she is a very much sought after speaker, not just in the country, but the world over. And for her outstanding contributions and being an exemplary figures in the field of higher education, research, innovation, and policies on science and technology locally and abroad, she received an honorary Doctor of Science from the University of Glasgow in 2013, Indiana University's Thomas Hart Benton Mural Medallion in 2015, honorary doctoral degree of the University of Keele, United Kingdom, I believe, and honorary doctorate in literature from Kyoto Universities of Foreign Studies. Yeah? And I do hope, to be honest, I've done justice for the small introduction within the time frame that we actually have. Dato' Asma, the floor is yours, please.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning kepada yang bahagia Profesor Datuk Insinyur Dr. Saleh Jaafar, the moderator for this morning, and also my salutation to yang bahagia Professor Datuk Wira Dr. Raha Abdul Rahim, who is the Knight Chancellor of UTM, yang bahagia Professor Datuk Insinyur Dr. Abdul Wahab, who is the Wahab Muhammad, yeah, who is the DVC RNI for UKM. So, and also very good morning to all the professors, my colleagues, and participants, and everyone basically on the virtual space this morning. So thank you to Academy Professor Malaysia for inviting me to share my thoughts on the topic this morning. So let me begin by sharing the slide. I hope it works. Can you see?
Yes, Dato'. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Okay. Basically, we're going to talk about 10-10 My STIE framework. Can universities and academia rise to the challenge? In terms of, to begin, let me say that Malaysia aims to be a high-income nation by being a high-tech nation by 2030. But the question is, have you ever wondered if the ecosystem is in place to drive innovation economy in Malaysia? And essentially, what are Malaysia's grand challenges? And among the innovations to develop, is it enough to establish a consolidated industry or industries in Malaysia that will drive the GDP of the country? And do the industries in Malaysia have enough knowledge content in order to be competitive in the innovation economy? Or are we just seeing pockets of excellence by chance? And can we then rise to the challenge and do this by design? And what are the issues? And why have we not yet created a systemic change to the ecosystem that will now benefit the industry and the rakyat? And can universities and academia rise to the challenge? So I hope these are some of the questions that we hope to address this morning. So let me begin by saying, what are Malaysia's grand challenge? And let's see the big picture, what this is all about. COVID-19 pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, has taught us that in order to remain resilient, we need science to power our economy post-COVID-19. And to ensure Malaysia remains competitive globally, the government continues its efforts to actually mainstream STI as a driver of economic growth in its transformation plans. And this essentially will enable Malaysia to become a high-income, high-tech nation and a developed country based on knowledge as well as competitiveness. And with the advent of Industry 4.0, with all this rapid change in technology, we need to instill innovation in our industries in order to move productivity. And when we talk about innovation, let us define this as innovation is about our industries and enterprises using homegrown invention or discoveries or indigenous technologies, or even the ability to adopt and adapt foreign technologies from technologies by the universities in their manufacturing systems, basically to adopt for the industries to adopt and adapt from the universities in their manufacturing system in order for our industry to produce new products or practices or services that will lead our firms to novel ways of producing or acting, right? And post-COVID-19 has shown that industries need to be powered by STI in order to remain resilient. In short, we need to create STI-based industries that will use our own indigenous technology, like what is happening in Korea. They have their own LG, they have their own Samsung, and so on and so forth. So only then can we be the producer of technology rather than be the consumer of technology to compete in the knowledge-based economy. Well, the big question is, are we there yet? After so many years, 63 years of independence, are we there yet? And did we manage to transfer our technologies to the industry? And how much have we achieved since independence? So this is the slide produced by Academy Science Malaysia that showed the top of the iceberg. Usually we are fed with information that's top of the iceberg, but hardly you see what is happening in the country in the bottom part of the iceberg. We talk about global innovation index. We rank at now overall ranked is 33 out of 131. But if you look at our product innovation, our patents by origin, we are not there yet. Yeah. If we talk about market, we are the supposedly ranked 26th largest exporter in the world. But we look at participation in the global value chain, we are 53 of 63. And if we look at the ease of starting business, we started out in 2016 by being at number 14 out of 128 countries. But if we look now, we rank at 97. So something has not gone right there. In terms of competitiveness, we rank at 27 or over 63, but in terms of labor productivity, in terms of patent application per capita, in terms of startup procedures, we're still not there yet. In terms of knowledge, this is supposed to be where our stance is as universities, especially with the 5 research universities. We publish over 270,000 research publications since 2010. And Malaysia ranked at number 23 out of 231. But if you look at in detail, only less than 10% are in the top 10% citation percentile out of the 270,000 papers. But if you ask the question, what have we done with the knowledge that we generated and disseminated via publication, we rank at number 70 out of 131. That means in terms of knowledge creation, we are not there yet. And also in terms of knowledge workers that we produce that is capable in terms of high-end skill, also not there yet. So in terms of world talent ranking, we are at 63 of 137 in terms of startup skills. So what can we see here? After 63 years, we find that the country's competitiveness is driven by good talent and infrastructure, but definitely not by innovation. And the innovation capacity and skills, therefore, need to be strengthened to move STI-based enterprises, this time not by chance, but by design. So Of course, if we look at, come on, you'll be probably be saying after 63 years, surely we must have some success. Yes, we do have pockets of excellence. This is a study done by for EPU, and we show here that our industries are basically classified to pace setters, adapters, imitators, and laggards. If you look at it carefully, Malaysia currently has a GDP of 1.2 trillion. And if the question is, can we enhance it? And so how? And we find that the building blocks of success are the pace setters, and that is in the IT services, the EE, electronic, automotive, financial services, food processing, fabricated metals, and so on. But we have adapters, which is like tourism. We have also imitators, like in the transport and transport services. But we have also laggards. And if you ask the question, what are men's basic needs, which is food, agriculture, this is at laggard. Shelter, construction, also at laggard. Clothing, textile, apparel, footwear, also at laggard. And even health services is also at the laggard. The question then is, how do we move all this up the value chain? Can we move the laggards? Agriculture is a very important thing. Food security is a laggard. We need to now move that. So to move forward, we therefore need to address pressing challenges with whole of government strategic approach. And can we now enhance the innovation capacity of our industries, this time hopefully by design? And why is it that we are not there yet? Among the problems that we have inadequate resource allocation and investment, especially in experimental development, funds to translate the R&D outputs to market. If you look at the graph that is shown here, the red area is basic research allocation, the blue is applied research, and the green is experimental development, which is commercialization, commercialization grants. And we find that Korea, Switzerland, Japan, Denmark, Singapore, even United Kingdom, there is a bigger range of the green bar, and that shows that there's a lot of money there that is being placed in order to move commercialization of research. But if you look at Malaysia, we are very high in fundamental and also in applied, but very little money has been allocated to translate all this knowledge that we generate into products for commercialization. And even Thailand, our neighbor, does better than us in terms of providing the allocation to move the R&D in the country. But in terms of GERD and GDP, Malaysia is at 1.04, at least we are serious about it, whereas all the other countries, the innovative countries like Korea, etc., GDP GERD is about 4.81 allocation of money in terms into research. And well, where are the researchers? The researchers are mainly in the higher learning institution, in the universities, both public and private, and therefore limiting capability of our industry. If you look at, again, Korea, Switzerland, Japan, Denmark, Singapore, there's a large number of the researchers, both in the, Korea, majority of the researchers are in the industry. That's why when we generate knowledge, we can then pass over, or in Korea, the universities can do the fundamental, then they pass over to the researchers in the industries that can now move all the knowledge up the value chain. But in terms of Malaysia, we have only 15% of the researchers in the industry, and a whopping 79, almost 80% of our researchers are actually in the universities, and only about 4.14 in the government sector. So this is where we need to see some change if we now are truly interested in moving innovation in the country. So, and the next problem or challenge is the innovation chasm. This has been the talk of the town, not just yesterday, not just last year. This has been going on since the 6th Malaysia Plan. And since the 6th Malaysia Plan, we have always recognized, the government has always recognized that the largest source of R&D wealth, especially with patent, etc., are in the public sector, especially with the 5 RUs. But there is a need to actually now transfer these indigenous technologies discovered in the public sector to actually move it to the private sector. And therefore we need, with the innovation chasm that we see, between the knowledge generators and the users of knowledge, this has resulted in economic disparities and the lack of impact. So there is a need for more engagement between academia and industry in a collaborative manner, not simply just point fingers and accusing each other, but actually work together in a collaborative manner. And to do that, we need a policy from higher education to actually link academia with industry and academia with society. Yes, the blueprint has it, but the policy need to be cascaded down to the KPI of the universities, therefore, in order to make sure all this is happening on the ground. And there is a need to also create a seamlessness between the R&D priority and the economic development. Again, there is a need for policy that will link the R&D priorities to economy, right? So two policies that we need. One, to link the R&D priority to the economy. And secondly, a policy from higher education to link academia with industry and also academia with society. So, of course, a lot of people will say, stop blaming the universities. We have been trying to work with the industry, but I would prefer to show it by evidence. This is the Innovation Imperative overview by World Bank in the World Bank Report 2020. This is the latest one up to December 20 of 2020. And this shows all the innovation activity among the East Asian countries. And if you look at Malaysia, our firms are high in introducing process innovation. This means that in their manufacturing system, they have innovated some process, but it does not yet equal to a new product or new novel service, etc. But in terms of the blue bar, that shows the ability of our company to have indigenous technology. We are very low. In fact, if you compare between China, forget about China, China is always far ahead. If you look at Philippines, Cambodia, Mongolia, Vietnam, every one of them, even Laos, Indonesia, Thailand, are much higher in terms of blue bar of having indigenous knowledge to move the innovation in their country compared to Malaysia. And of course, the yellow bar shows the low R&D expenditure spent by companies on the R&D. But look at the gray bar. The gray bar shows that our industry has a high dependency on adopting and adapting outside technologies. This is the real McCoy, as you see, because a lot of times we say we transfer technology, but at the end of the day, this is the situation that we see in the country today with our industries. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to continue with weak academia industry linkage, and something needs to be done. So as Einstein says, we cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect to get different results. And therefore, we need to rise to the challenge of creating a fast economic recovery plan and creating impact to the nation. And I guess this is time for systemic change that affects the whole ecosystem and not just change piecemeal. And therefore, we need a roadmap, and we need all this to be in the entire value chain in order to make sure that change is happening in a systemic manner. And therefore, time for universities and academia to rise to the challenge. And to do that, we need to create the collaborative ecosystem. So first, policy to link between the knowledge generator and the users of the knowledge, which is the industry and the rakyat. So basically, we need that policy, and that policy came with the national STI policy that was advocated by MOSTI, and with the national STI policy, it links now between STI and economy in order to create innovation to move productivity. And therefore, to become a high-income nation, we need to be a high-tech nation with industries using our local or indigenous technology, or the ability to adopt and adapt the foreign technologies, meaning to say buy some, make some. And so the national STI policy is the catalyst for Malaysia to start its journey from becoming a consumer, or from just a consumer of technology to now becoming a producer of technology, and hopefully leapfrog the country to become a high-tech nation by 2030. And the national STI policy also improved the STI governance and enhanced the innovative ecosystem. emphasizing this time not on output, but on outcome or impact. So in short, the STIN basically, or the National STI Policy, is now strengthening research from fundamental to applied to development, to commercialization, to innovation. That is the change in the landscape of the country, so that now we can, the universities and academia can now move to impact-driven research. So ladies and gentlemen, the National STI Policy is a national policy. It's not a MOSTI thingy, right? So it is imperative that we have total government approach to implement the policy across universities. Usually, most of the STI policies are fragmented. They are issued by MOSTI, but not practiced by other ministries. So we cannot afford to do that. Post-COVID has taught us that we need total government approach in providing solutions to problems faced by the country. So, and this policy must now be translated as KPI to the universities as well. And the policy basically have 6 trusts with 46 initiatives, but in short, it's about the governance, it's about development of technology via RDCI, industries that is based on indigenous technology, adaptive talents, and acculturation application of STIE, and of course, internationalization aspects. But this is the more important one that needs to be noted, that in order to move National STI Policy, there is a need for 10 STI-based initiatives. One is the Technology Commercialization Accelerator, or TCA, which I will explain. Next is to have alternative funds via Malaysian Science Endowment. And then we have to facilitate the innovation to move the industry. We have the Sandbox, and we need to move the digital infrastructure. We need to move for deep tech, precision farming, agriculture, and also pembangunan teknologi dalam kalangan bakat tempatan, indigenous technology, and also to change technology for use, to make it more user friendly. And we have now the National Vaccine Center that will create the roadmap for Malaysia to develop its own vaccines within 10 years, and Malaysia's Innovation Hub. So for the first time, the National STI Policy officially now link STI to socio-economic drivers for this time around value creation. So this is important, and how we do this by having the 10-10 My STIE framework. So this 10-10 My STIE framework basically has been approved by the National Science Council and Cabinet in August, and then launched by the Minister of MOSTI in December 8, 2020. So what exactly is the 10-10 My STIE framework? This is about impact-driven research now. So to connect academia to industry and move knowledge and innovation-based economy, we need to do research with outputs, obviously, with publication, number, gadget, but more importantly, we need to also be in the movement towards the creation of outcome or impact. And COVID-19 has taught us that the economy to survive, it has to be powered by STI, and not that alone is not enough. We need to work in a collaborative ecosystem, not just university by university or university with other university, but university with quadruple helix that needs to be done. And with new business models, new paradigm of thought, and constant foresight needs to be done in order for us to remain competitive. So impact-driven research is the way forward, not just for Malaysia, but I think the whole world is also moving to impact-driven research in order to move Malaysia's high-tech industry and enhance the quality of life of the rakyat. And impact-driven is research results that go beyond academia. And not only that, you cannot say, yeah, I've done this, I brought the impact to the village, but or to the region, but it must be evidence-based. It has to be demonstrable. So when we talk about impact, it's not about how to develop the vaccine. That would be fundamental. Or what about the vaccine, like the finding of discovery or biomarker, right? But it's not about that. It's now about whether the newly developed vaccine was able to reduce the spread of the disease. That means we are now talking results-driven. So impact is no longer talking about the process, but about the results. So essentially, to make it clear, because I'm sure you'll be saying to me now, what do you mean I'm not doing impact? Of course I'm doing impact. Well, there are two kinds of impact. There's academic and societal impact. So far, what we have been doing is academic impact, and very little of it has gone to societal impact. Demonstrable contribution, academic impact is the usual thing that is our KPI. The demonstrable contribution to academic includes having quality conferences, publication in academic journals with age index, large citation, impact factor papers, etc., deliver research group seminars, etc. So all the above activities are not enough, basically, ladies and gentlemen, to create a tangible change, all right, in the life or livelihood of the rakyat, nor tangible change in the industry. Why? Because they have limited reach and restricted to academic audience. It does not go beyond academia. Post-COVID-19, however, have shown that at least by this webinar, we can reach out to a lot of people. In fact, people from anywhere, the public can also be listening to this talk. So at least showing now democratization of knowledge, that means the reaching out is now better. But you know, when we are talking about numbers, let me remind you of what Einstein said again. Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. All right. So basically, if we talk about impact, we are now talking about intangible. So, and that is difficult to measure. So the question is, why do we do academic impact? Because it's convenient and easy to measure, because we just measure numbers. And as a result, merits for promotion are still by means of publication. So if promotion is still by numbers, then when are we ever going to move now to the intangible? So then the question you need to ask is that, who are we trying to educate? At the end of the day, when we are the disseminators or disseminating knowledge, who are we trying to educate? Are we educating our own peers by attending our own academic conferences, or are we educating the public? The answer is we are educating both, right? So most of the time, when asked regarding impact, we would show expected impact. Like, for example, okay, if you get the vaccine, it's expected to reduce the spread of the disease by XX%. But if we continue to do this, ladies and gentlemen, rakyat will not benefit from what we do. To them, we have not created a sustainable change in their lives, nor in their livelihood. Industries also do not benefit from us. As I've shown you from the World Bank report, very low indigenous technology was actually transferred to the industry. So let us be reminded that as researchers, our responsibility as knowledge generator is basically to contribute and enhance wealth creation and societal well-being. So we need to actually now to create knowledge for change, not just knowledge for the sake of knowledge, but knowledge for change. That means we need both impact factor and real impact. This shows the career path of our academics. Yeah, we are the generator of knowledge, the disseminator of knowledge, but we are also the translator of knowledge to either for the industry to use or for the community to use. But bottom line, with the KPI that is given to us, most of us are already tired with the grants, having to find grants, graduate supervision, student journals, etc., and creating prototype. We're already tired here, to the point that some of us could not persevere to move beyond that to patents and move to the arena of commercialization, such that we can now use our knowledge to help the society or even industry. So what essentially if we go through the gate of commercialization, we are also going to be tired here as well. So this tiredness, I think we need vitamin and stuff to be able to move us so that we can now perform the role of a true academic. So we need to persevere. Of course, we need to be incentivized and encouraged to continue the journey beyond academia. So it is imperative that we perform impactful research in the real world rather than simply within the academic community. And it is the responsibility of the universities and academia to help with Malaysia's economic recovery plan. And we need to provide real impact, not just expected impact. So if you ask about amanah, let me remind all of you, while many industries had to shut down because they have no umbrella to help them during COVID, but Malaysian academics continue to receive salary despite working from home. So essentially, in terms of amanah, there's a lot of things that we still need to do that is within our responsibility. So performance of impactful research, yes, is complex. Yes, there is require banyak leceh, as they would put the Malay word for that. Require the interaction between academic and the quadruple helix. It will take time because we are not familiar with this. And the new game in town would require for integrated means the combination multidisciplinary quadruple helix, all working in a collaborative research approach with sustained longer term grant funding. That means we also need to see that grants for this must go beyond 3 years, up to 5 years or 10 years. And if we do this, we need to narrow the time lapse between developing the technology and the adopting of the whatever that we develop by industry in order to create our own industries that have our own indigenous technology. So this is where the Malaysian 1010 STIE framework serve as a tool to transform Malaysia into a knowledge-intensive economy by design, linking therefore STI, which is an economic sector by itself, to economy, which is another sector by itself, in the hope of creating a collaborative ecosystem to now move Malaysia up the global innovation value chain in order for us to become a high-tech nation. And outputs from the 1010 My STIE framework must, it cannot stop at the university. It has to be brought to the localities, either to the industry in the region or in the state or to the community that is in dire need of that solution, in order for us to create impact in terms of being inclusive and also aligned to the shared prosperity vision and SDG. So this is the 1010 My STIE framework. Basically, it has 10 technologies that is determined with 10 Malaysia socio-economic drivers. Of course, you're going to ask the question, why 10? And why do you come up with this technology? This is not like overnight thinking. That I will explain how we come up with these world technologies that is done by the academy. But Malaysia, for any country, can use this particular 1010 in the sense that the science and technology driver is going to be something that is going to be in need for industries up to 2050. But the socio-economic driver can change according to the needs of countries. So if it was in Burma, then the socio-economic driver may be different. But if for Malaysia, we have 10. So the 10 technologies are 5G, 6G, sensor, 4D, 5D printing, advanced material, advanced intelligence system or AI, cyber security, augmented analytics and data discovery, blockchain, neurotechnology, and bioscience technology. Basically, people in biotech, you have no problem because bioscience is there. But in the Malaysian socio-economic driver, the 10 that has been evaluated that will now move for a fast economic recovery plan is in energy, business and financial, culture, arts, tourism, medical, healthcare, smart engineering, technology, smart cities and transportation, water and food, agriculture and forestry, in education, as well as environmental and biodiversity. So essentially, why 10? Academy had come up. Remember, you need to do foresight also, and we then also foresight for emerging science, engineering, technology by SM, and we found that there are about 94 technologies that is needed to move. Right, from these 94 technologies that we had, we then look at what are the national priority areas, what are our research capability. Then, more importantly, we do a global patent analysis, meaning to say, what are the emerging and declining technologies? It's not about patents attained, but let's look at the global patent pending, because that will show what the countries are now filing for patent, will show the kind of trend and technology that is now going in. And we look at the industry analysis and we look at the global trend. So when we do that, we can collapse all these 94 into 10 technologies. And that was how we derived to the 10 technologies. But if you look at it, it will probably be the driver behind most of the industries in the world up to, as I said, 2050. So how are you going to use this 1010? If you are the DVC RNI, obviously you have to lead the research team. So how are you going to use it? If we take the horizontal analysis and we look at 5G, 6G, for example, if you are a center of excellence that is moving 5G, 6G, we're not talking about applied. We're talking about fundamental all the way to apply to bringing it to the industry. Meaning to enhance 5G, 6G, you still need fundamental approach. So if you are now a center of excellence doing this, you can actually drive all of the 10 socio-economic drivers of the country, right? And meaning to say this, when you are driving the 5G, 6G, you got to work in partnership with the community, also with the industry to be able to move 5G, 6G. But if you're talking about a vertical analysis, that means you take agriculture, for example, you need the combination and collaboration of all of that 10 technology in order to drive the agriculture and forestry socio-economic driver. So basically, only then can we create this value, return of value that we want to see that will now benefit the rakyat, benefit the locality, etc. So what is happening here is that we are now asking that there is a need to work in a collaborative manner. It's not about just within the university, X department working with Y PTJ, but basically now not just among 3 universities, but now among all the agencies, etc., as part of the quadruple helix, right? So if we take an example, I put all the 10 technologies in the center. So if we want to do catch up on agriculture alone, if you want to do catch up, right? Let's say you want to do drone-enabled precision farming, because I said precision farming is now part of the initiative under MOSTI national STI policy. If you just want to do drone-enabled precision farming, you need technology 1, which is 5G, 6G, technology 5, advanced intelligence system, and technology 7, which is augmented analytics. So basically, at the academy, we have even done this to make sure that you sort of have an idea of what are the things you need to do in terms of catching up. And if you want to leapfrog, for example, to automated precision farming, machine-to-machine communication via 6G network, you need now a whole slew of collaborative works with people expert in 5G, 6G, system 1, system 5, system 6, 7, 9, 10, all this in order to collaborate. I hope you understand that each of the white oval circle, you don't have to perform all, but each one is a big project by itself. So these are some of the ideas that we can bring forward to what are catching up and in agriculture alone in order to be able to compete with other countries, and what are the things that you can now plan in advance in terms of leapfrogging the technology to create the next generation research and application. And what's important is that when you're developing all this, can it spill over? What is in agriculture, can it spill over to help in the other, in the other, let's say you now create drones to do pesticide spraying, etc. And this drone, however, can it spill over to help in the health sector, that the drones can now be able to find what are the people lost in the mountains, etc., so that immediate treatment can now be given. So we can now see the spillover of some of the development that we see within one sector, but they can show spillover into another sector. So that would be a plus. So to make sure that you simply do not do anything under the sun, because if we start to do that, anything under the sun, and we interpret our own way of doing things, the country continue to have vacuum or gaps in the area that is needed essentially by the industry and needed by the nation. We continue to have gaps because the lecturers will always come up with what is their own idea of what is needed. So this here, after many stakeholder engagement, we came up with the 30 niche area, 3 niche area per each of the socio-economic driver. And you can see here, like for example, in medical and healthcare, there is a need for digital health, precision medicine, and the clinical trial. So all this niche area is basically the niche area will be reviewed every 2 or 3 years to make sure that Malaysia remains competitive in the global market. So it's not like fixed, yeah. But the technologies are there, and the 10 socio-economic drivers are there, at least for RMK 12. So inshallah, this also has been approved to be used in RMK 12. So this is something that we can all look forward to. But if you now want to create impact, a lot of the times we just say, okay, whatever we have, let's just bring to our anak angkat village or area that is closest. Let's say UTM, you'll be bringing this to Malacca. But which part of Malacca? Does that particular development or creation is needed in Malacca, or is it needed in somewhere else? So basically, before this can be brought, this is something that most of us don't think about. But essentially now, we realize why some things we bring to a certain place just doesn't take off or doesn't make a change in the livelihood or change the regional area, because we didn't do the 8I innovation helix ecosystem analysis. First, if you want to bring your innovation to a certain area, does it have the infrastructure? Does it have the infrastructure? Does it have the intellectual capital? I mean, people around there, the talent stock, do they have the skills to be able now to move that particular industry or that particular innovation that you have created? And is there governance, good governance regarding how that industry is going to be spurred, right? And do you see incentives, both physical and non-physical, to make sure that that particular industry will take off? And do you see other institutions around that area? That means it's not just about UTM alone. Do you see Polytechnic? Do you see community colleges? Do you see other universities that can also come in and be able to help? And do we have, like say, strategic partners in this particular area? And can we move internationalization? And to move internationalization, that would mean that our products innovation must be able to meet global best practices and standards, because a lot of the time what we develop is not ready yet for export because of the standards that we cannot meet. And also in that particular agriculture sector, for example, do you have the connectors? Do you know where the connectors are? Do you have the producers and the manufacturers, the technology providers, the financing providers, the standard setters and regulators? Do you know what it's all about? Supply chain and logistics, market and access providers, capacity providers. This is what I mean. You can no longer work alone. You have to work with all the relevant agencies in order to move now 1010 My STIE, and to move into the locality, not simply just at the lab and publish, not good enough. Now we need to move one more step to now go to the area itself. So to do that, it's important for UTM or for UKM to see what are the industries that will now take off closest to you. Let's say if you are USM in Penang, then you can see that EE and manufacturing, financial services, tourism services, etc. will take off there. So that's why USM need to be concentrating on EE, and that's why we have CREST there as well. So that is what I mean by strategically now looking at things. If you're working on halal, then move into areas that will move halal. So all this is available in the 1010 My STIE book that you can now download from the Academy of Science website, and you can get these maps in more detail in the various zones, the northern zone, the eastern zone, the southern zone, Sabah, and as well as Sarawak. So I cannot show everything in this 1 hour talk, but the application of the 1010 My STIE is to bring return of value now to every location in the country, so that now you will see the impact of the the result work that you do can now create impact to the socio-economic sectors and actually move the innovation value chain. So to make that happen, okay, we have the policy, we have how to do it, which is the framework, but we need the money. So the money now comes from the Malaysia Grand Challenge grants. And this grant is not like your FRGS, LRGS. It is an integrated research grant, right? That is meant to realize the 1010 My STIE. And of course, what are the areas? The areas are in the 10 socio-economic sectors that I talk about, using the 10 technologies that I talk about. And these are the grants. But what's important is that the top-down grant, which can go for technology readiness level 3 to 9, that means no fundamental, you already must have the fundamental done and is ready now to move. Each of the grant is worth 15 million. And again, this is a problem because it's 36 months. So we are going into MOSTI to request that this need to be allowed for at least 5 years or longer in order for us to see impacts, because it is just simply a matter of convenience that we have 36 because now you can write an annual report, but that's not good enough as far as impact is concerned, because we need sustained grant funding for a longer period of time. This we need to convince MOSTI as well. And if, however, you want to create startups, or you want to have things that can now be bridging funds, all these other 4 funds are also available under the 1010 My STIE, in the Malaysia Grand Challenge grants that will now allow, that range from 500,000 to $4 million per grant, in order to be able to move the agenda of innovation in the country. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move from KPI based to actually WOW based project. So essentially, what is WOW? WOW is actually, first W is about world class. This is talking about global challenges, meaning to say the mind, as we, every time I talk about this, the lecturers will be asking me, I have this project that you're talking about is still small. It's within 3 to 5 people doing it. You're still thinking in the FRGS or LRGS mode. This one is talking about more than 10, 15, 20, 30 people, different agencies, multidisciplinary, in order to now produce world class. So first, wow, whatever you want to do for a $15 million grant, is it going to be world class? Whatever the technology that you want to move forward, is it going to be a novel one? Is it innovative? Does it solve a major problem challenge? This is what we need to see. And the O, is it outstanding? The quality of the proposal itself, is it clear? Is it sound with rigorous methodology? Is it easy to understand by non-specialists? And the last W, winnable. Winnable means when you perform this, it can win the hearts and mind of the community, of the industry, of the stakeholders, of the policymakers, etc., and be able now to create impact. So this is what we mean by moving from KPI to now impact. Of course, you're going to ask, right? If we now have this kind of WOW grants, how would it be facilitated? Because, the way we are doing things now is that whatever products that you have, it goes to your university holdings. And we hope and pray that the university holdings is able now to move that particular product out of the shelf and actually go there. But when we start to do that, we're still talking about small one company, and you say, yeah, I managed to commercialize. But there's only one company. It does not create a mega industry to move the good or whatever for GDP for the country. So to do that, to facilitate that, we Academy had proposed for Technology Commercialization Accelerator. This is an entity that will move all the economic-oriented research in the country. So basically, now you have an entity that can now move this, and the TCA is to play the role as a catalyst, the enabler, a convener of innovation to actually spearhead any economic-oriented research, whether it's coming from the industry or whether it's coming from academia. So basically, TCA has been approved. Alhamdulillah, I defended it at the National Science Council, and now the minister had brought it to cabinet, and I think yesterday it was approved by cabinet. Alhamdulillah. So now we actually have the entire thing. We have the policy, the STI policy. We have how to combine, to link STI now to the knowledge generators by 1010 My STIE. And then we have the grants, the Malaysia Grand Challenge, to actually provide money to move this. And we have now an entity called TCA, which is equivalent to A-Star of Singapore or the UK Innovate of UK, right? That can now move the entire agenda for the country, for the university. It will facilitate all this. And the TCA actually have 3 main functions. One is to move all of the demand-driven R&D and market-driven R&D via collaborative network. This is what I'm talking about, the $15 million grant. It can be, the $15 million grant can be a collaborative effort choreographed by a university, or it can be choreographed by a neutral entity, but working with all the various agencies and industries in the area so that we produce now collaborative R&D projects And this is then, if there are going to be startups coming out, then there will be Cradle, MTDC, etc., that can now provide the funding for these startups to be there. But if you now want to do a test bed, let's say you develop a vaccine and you want to have it tested, then we have the National Technology Innovation Sandbox that can now facilitate, and by facilitating you in terms of regulation, in terms of making sure that can take place and not you having to fight the battle all the way. So this sandbox is there. Hopefully the output will be increased business expenditure on R&D that is industry-wide in technology-based advancement. The TCA can also now help you in terms of creation the spin-off, the usual way that we have been doing things with commercialization and technology transfer. But this time around, the wheel and deal will be done now at the national level to move all this. And there will be now, remember the technology park is there, incubator, accelerator for development of innovative products for you to scale up, etc., and to do pilot project. And hopefully now this can facilitate to move the business enterprise and social enterprise. And the third part of TCA, you cannot have all this without training the talent to be essentially now high skill and industry ready talent development. And when we say that, we need to be facing facts that our capability in terms of talent development is limited because the operational expenses in the university is not big enough to be able to keep up with what are the pace setting technologies that is now needed by the pace setter industries in our country. So this is where now we need to work together with the industry to create this industry ready talent development for capacity building, for technology and future skills, so that we can create now knowledge clusters that that can help drive the collaborative R&D projects and increase now researchers hopefully in the business enterprise and in the startups. Because as you say, as I have shown you, we have only 15% of researchers in the industry and 98% of our industry are SME based. So we need to now move that to LLC, large local company that is Malaysia's own, using Malaysia's technology, moving into the global market. And hopefully by having trained this future skill, we're going to have a global talent hub that Malaysians will now be able to go worldwide with that. Right? So it's in short, this, ladies and gentlemen, the future challenges, we can say that the future research agenda is now going to be about impact, but the policies must be clear and consistent. That means if there is some change in the government, things must still be in place. So that is why we advocate for policy institutionalization, so that the policies are clear and that is consistent. The policies are clear, is consistent, and that it is now a total government approach, not just this ministry comes up with their idea, so the rest of the other ministry don't have to follow. But this is not the concept. The concept is for a total government approach, because there are many ministries involved in saying yes to this 1010 My STIE. So, and therefore, if the policies are clear, it has to be cascaded to the university management and also to the researchers. Not good enough to say, yeah, please work with the academia industry. That has been done for a long, long time. As you can see, the impact is just not there, because at the end of the day, promotion exercise is still by publication. So the journey towards quality, excellence, impact, which is what university is all about, requires, therefore, the implementation of both KPI and KIP. That means key performance as well as key intangible performance, the impact one, right? So the universities, to be fair to the universities, you only see ranking. You actually do not see impact evaluation yet being done for the universities. So to be fair to the universities, they may be creating pockets of excellence in terms of impact, but the study needs to be there to make sure and show how our universities are creating impact, right? So when we start to do impact evaluation, we also must remember impact evaluation cannot just be about numbers and playing the number game. So we have to look at other alternatives that is there now in the framework done in the UK to actually now measure impact by means of case studies and no longer using these measurements of numbers. Yeah. So the promotional exercise also in the universities need to reflect similar requirements. Promotion exercise is actually something that is within the control of the university. So if the university is moving towards this agenda, then there's a lot that can be done at university level. So universities also must review their research agenda, because the need to perform integrated and collaborative research means it is no longer about having 2 or 3 people. It's about having a cluster of people now working with other universities. That means the PUU of the universities also need to now have a different paradigm shift, and not just and basically facilitate the collaboration of the universities with the industry, with the other agencies, etc. And of course, the grant funders also need to make sure there's sustainable long-term funding, because the thinking and paradigm of having 3-year research grant is still ingrained in most of the grant administrators. So for impact to happen, the mindset of the researcher also need to go towards thinking big, to shift from just simply KPI so that I can get my publication, to actually now move to wow, right? World-class output, outstanding outputs, and winnable, which is highly impactful. So there is a need to build capacity, new capacities and skills among the staff and students if we are moving to impact, especially to postgraduate students, right? And there is a need, of course, to upgrade the infrastructure and infrastructure in the universities to make sure that universities can now become enablers of economic transformation for both society and for industry. So ladies and gentlemen, what I have shown you today is that there is a roadmap, there is a policy to allow this, and there's funding, and there's the entity being set up to make sure all these are cleared, to allow now researchers to move the 10-10 my STIE in the country. But its success at implementation is very much dependent on total government approach, and of course the successful implementation by TCA. I think without you worrying, this is I think my greatest fear. We have always come up with fantastic blueprints but fail at implementation level. So for that, Academy has done more than 120 engagement with so many ministries, with so many agencies, with many layers of administrators in each ministry, so that everybody is at the same wavelength with what this is all about. It's a lot of work, and so far we have been okay with it, and now we are moving to the states, talking to the chief ministers of each state to allow now this to happen, and the corridors or the various economic corridors. So for talent development, we need to make innovation as part of the curriculum, including for lifelong learning for the current workforce. Innovation to be part of the curriculum. And it's so important that we, in the curriculum, when we train the students, we provide the foundational and providing of the 21st century technical future skills like creativity, problem solving, learning agility, all these which are critical for innovation. So in short, we hope to be able to create a new generation of academics that can now rise to the challenges by being not only thinkers, but also values-based doers. So I hope what we have to say today resonates well with the audience, and you can basically download the 10-10 My STIE Transformation book and actually study this in detail, and this is available at the Academy of Science website. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, and back to you, Dr. Saleh.
Thank you very much, Dato' Asmah. As usual, prolific speakers can be easily understood with clarity of thoughts. And I think we should really, first of all, applaud Academy Science to, to come up with such, important document that has gone through tremendous studies and investigate studies after studies and a lot of engagement. And I think this is also very much aligned with SDG and also our Wawasan Kemakmuran Bersama, And I think Dato' Asmah has actually mentioned many times about integrated approach, whole of government approach, and may I say also whole of society approach will need to come in, because this is where the social economic drivers will become very important. I think many of our audience today are actually coming from academia and some from ministries and also agencies. I do not want to actually elaborate what Dr. Asma has actually mentioned. The only thing that I would like to share with all of you is that this particular document that academic science have actually come up with has actually been downloaded the world over. Now I think there are over 3,230 downloads from all over the world from 31 countries, Dato'.
Yeah.
And they come as far as Brazil, China, United States, United Kingdom, Japan, even Bangladesh are actually downloading such a document. So we can always say that our fear is that we come up with a good document, somebody else, somebody else,
also.
somebody else
benefiting from it.
Exactly, Dato'. And I mean, which is actually not a bad idea from the from the perspective of benefiting others, but I think we do not want Malaysia to be left behind. Correct. And I think it was quite interesting when you shared that 80%, nearly 80% of researchers in the countries are actually coming from academic institutions, and the whole agendas of STIE, now probably falls on the big majorities, and how the leaders in respective universities actually managing the resources at their respective institutions. And this is why, Dato' and participants, we are having hopefully some response from, we cannot be having all the vice chancellors, but we have actually fortunate enough to have Professor Dato' Wira Raha as the first discussant this morning, to probably try to reflect on what UTM, or even to some extent Malaysian technical universities, are actually moving forward with this document. And I think again, maybe most of us already know who Dato' Raha is. Currently, she is a vice chancellor of UTM, and probably the first lady or woman vice chancellors of technical university. And she had served with the Minister of Higher Education in the Higher Education Excellence Division, and she is she's also attached member staff of University Putra Malaysia. I should mention that as well. So Prof. Raha, you have about 10 to 15 minutes for reflections and maybe a response to this document and the talk by Dr. Asma. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Datuk Saleh, my good friend, I would say, Professor Dato' Asma Ismail, and also Professor Dr. Ahmad Abdul Wahab Muhammad. First of all, thank you to Academy Policy Malaysia for inviting me to share and perhaps look into how we can, as a university, respond to STIE. I would like to, I guess, on behalf of everyone as well, to thank Dr. Asma for sharing. I really love to listen to Dr. Asma's talks normally, and today she really outdid herself, because she actually did a full ecosystem RDCI sharing, sharing with us her thoughts and also the work that has been carried out by the Academy Science Malaysia. So congratulations. This is something that we have been waiting for, actually. The full ecosystem of RDCI, from grants to TCA, and congratulations, since it has been approved by Cabinet, something that we have been waiting a long time for. I think Dato' Asma knows, Dato' Saleh knows, most of the researchers in Malaysia has been waiting for this. Perhaps the only thing is of concern is that when you said that the KPI to the HEs, this is when I think there should be very close collaboration between MOSTI and also KPT or MOHI, because as you know, most of the universities are actually placed under or based under the Ministry of Higher Education. So there must be strong collaboration in order for the KPIs or the KIPs to actually be driven at a rate that perhaps a national, the country needs. I know there have been a lot of talk between the different ministries, and there have been a lot of buy-ins. But bottom line is, if it is going to be a true KPI for the country, then the different ministries must work together in terms of driving this and agencies. So let me go to my slide. I've actually prepared some slides. This is just to share with everybody what we have, how I'm looking at the STI from the education, from the part of education. And let me just share this slide that I have prepared. We'll look at what MTUN is working on, and later I'll just give some examples from UTEM. So actually, like I said, we're all very excited with the STI, and I think if we focus on education, we must ensure that the STI benefits all parties inclusively without marginalizing any quarter. Because as we know, STI talent is the backbone of national development. It is also the main focus of our DSTIN. Now, therefore, because of this, STEM or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics-based education, as well as technical and vocational training, will be fortified to ensure that the talent can meet the needs of the industry in a rapid changing global economy and technology. Because I believe, even though there is this 10 STI Malaysian socio-economic drivers, education, just because it is actually the producers of talent, is an all-encompassing agenda of the nation. So the Malaysian Technical University Network, or MTUN, was established following the second model of higher learning institution, accruing to the concept of German practical knowledge and industry-oriented studies, or the Fachhochschule, or University of Applied Sciences. Now, this idea, or this concept, was established to produce skilled and professional workforce in the field of engineering, technical and vocational, for greater contribution towards industrial advancements and sustainable developments of nation. Now, bear in mind, as opposed to the research universities that was established well, more than 50 years ago, the concept of MTUN was only established mid-2000. So comparatively, the concept is still a baby in Malaysia, or a toddler, I would say. Now, through the establishment of higher TVET institutions, the MTUN are expected to produce sufficient engineering technologies through practical-oriented and hands-on curriculum design, whereby there should be 60% practical and 40% applied theory. Teaching concept will be based on student-centered action and experiential learning. Now, what is very, very interesting and exciting to us in the MTUNs is that our programs are mostly relevant and aligned with the SNT drivers. Programs are offered in technology advancement, where if you look at technology advancement, that includes, we have 5G. Of course, at the moment, we are moving towards that. And then sensor technology, 4D printing, advanced materials, advanced intelligence systems, cybersecurity, and encryption, augmented analytical data discovery, blockchain, neurotechnology, bioscience technology. So these are the things that are very, very close to our hearts. So in a way, MTUN's programs are very, very relevant. And I would say this is something that makes us all very excited. And we feel that there is a lot of things that we can do together moving forward. And we also have the presence of scholars and experts in SNT from the industries who are working with us to actively drive the STEM education in higher education, institution of higher education. Now, there are also programs that would be value-added programs. For example, the professional certificate, teaching factory. And this is something which is unique to the MTUNs. Teaching factories, 2U2I, and lifelong learning, etc. Now, the positive impact of COVID, I would say, is the fact that the utilization of technology has been enhanced in teaching and learning. So for example, in digitization of materials, virtual reality, MOOCs, open courseware, blended learning. So these are the things that when we talked about it a few years back, maybe 4 to 5 years ago, we were saying that, let's promote MOOC, let's promote virtual reality and all that, so that the students that we produce would be ready for 4.0 IR and to be ready for technology. However, we were a bit skeptical then because we feel that, and even the lecturers are also quite reluctant to dive into this. But when COVID hits, this is the way forward, and nothing you can do but move. And Alhamdulillah, to tell you the truth, I think this is not only for the MTON, but for all the other universities. I'm sure this is something that everybody now is working on. And in fact, everybody is very comfortable using some of this technology in teaching and learning. Okay, what will be the challenges? Since I only have 15 minutes, we just delve into that. Most of these have been actually mentioned by Dato' Asma just now. But however, I would just want to reiterate the fact that the government has taken the effort to promote technical and vocational education and training. Now, however, one of the biggest challenges is that the response, not only by students, but also by parents, have remained slow because owing to traditional mindsets. Perhaps the thinking is that TVET education is second tier to the conventional ones. Another challenge that we see is that the percentage of MTON graduate employability actually remains among the highest in Malaysia. However, graduate employment, unemployment, and underemployment is still an issue because of unsatisfactory wages, brain drain, etc., reducing Malaysia's competitiveness in high-tech, high-value industrial productions. So I think in this case, it is not only about the universities trying to produce or producing technology-savvy or highly skilled workers, but it is also about the industries working together with the universities very early on to make sure that whatever talent that we produce would be something that is accessible and also talent that are in line with the needs of the industry and the country. Now, the second challenge would be lack of innovations, and this comes from the R&D, and I think Dr. Asma mentioned a lot just now how we can overcome this, especially with the policies and also the ecosystem in place. But again, the lack of innovation may also be attributable to the higher interest costs compared with those in developed nations, which reduces business risk appetite, shortage of STEM talent, investment infrastructure and business ecosystem, limited local economies of scale, and continued reliance on unskilled and semi-skilled foreign workers despite tightened work visa policies. Again, I think we can also mention that with COVID, this has become something that is of utmost importance for us to ensure that we have local skilled workers or highly skilled workers so that our dependence on the foreign workers would be reduced. So these are some suggestions that I have put forward. Some of these overlap with whatever Dato' Asma has mentioned. I'm very grateful for that. But what we can put forth is to emphasize on STEM education, digital literacy, and roles of higher TVET institutions to complement the STEM education ecosystem and also to move the STIE initiative. Universities and industries must join forces to identify and highlight the relevant talent needs more enthusiastically. Engagement with relevant entities must be strengthened. Secondly, is to enhance human resource programs through collaboration with the local universities and government agencies to provide a semi-skilled and skilled workforce that is able to meet the requirements of the industry. So for example, I feel that I must mention this, the matching grants that were initiated by the Ministry of Higher Education, whereby there should be collaboration between the industries and the universities via matching grants to solve certain problems, has been quite a success. And I hope that this will actually be continued because this is when we see that the industries would give commitment and together perhaps solving some of the problems of the country and the industries. Just to share with you, for example, UTM has received about 3.5 million budget from the industry last year, matched by grants that has been provided by the ministries. I feel that perhaps the way forward is to make sure that the trust between the industries and the academia is also put in place in order for them to move together better, and also for them to actually work together in a more vibrant ecosystem. Now, putting all the pieces together, overcoming the political and economic uncertainties, of course, there is one suggestion. We have to make sure that that we are stable enough so that we can engage in and focus our energy, containing the rising costs of things, building a vast pool of reliable workforce and talent that meets the requirement of the industry players, and also moving towards high-tech economy. I am sharing here also our own like Dato' Asma likes to say, we cannot just leave it to chance, but we must do it by design. So we have introduced this concept of tunai in UTM. What it means is, okay, one, in Malay, tunai means tunaikan janji. And what it is, it reflects technology at university, advancing industry and society, that is inclusivity. So for UTM, our focus, our niche area is advanced manufacturing, engineering, and also computing technology. So we would like
you have 3 minutes. Oh?
Sorry?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, eh? Okay, wow. So, okay, never mind, I'll go fast. And the deliverables would be highly skilled talent and relevant workforce, accomplished technologies and professionals. And our programs must be industry driven. And also the deliverables should be dynamic publications and industrial IPs. And that is where product innovation should be enhanced. And we look at the impact. So the impact drivers would be, looking at how whatever that we do at the university should impact the industry, the society, the environment, the university, and also at the global level. Okay, I'm at my second last slide. So the approach is that instead of just focusing on scholars, whereby maybe promotional activities is only depending on or based on publication, but what we want is we want to introduce or call ourselves technology scholars. Now, what is a scholar? A scholar is a person with great knowledge, usually of a particular subject. And what is technology? It is utilization of knowledge and organization of that knowledge for the achievement of practical purposes. So what we want is to produce more technology scholars, whereby they leverage technology to solve complex problems of the industries and society, and disseminating knowledge gained through teaching and learning, publication and IP services and consultation. So this is a concept that we are trying to embrace, and I feel that to move things forward, this is the way we should move as an MTUN. So just to share with you, UTM has 7 strategic goals, and I feel that this definitely would be able to support STIE. We want UTM to be students' university of choice. Our graduates must be of choice, so we have to come up with strategies on how to train our graduates so that they can fulfill the needs of the country. And our research should be, researchers must be solution providers for industry and society advancement. Our talent must be competent and robust, should be visible and globally prominent. The campus must be smart and dynamic, AI, all these initiatives, and also we should be financially sustainable. And tunai is the core of our 7 strategic goals. So I think Dato' Saleh, with your prompt just now, I actually accelerated my my sharing, and that was my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dato' Professor Raha. I'm sorry that we have to just maintain the
yes. I understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. But I think we get the message across. Congratulations for MTUN and also UTM. And we'll see what happens moving forward, inshallah. So our next discussion will be Professor Datuk Engineer Dr. Wahab Muhammad, who is currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Professor Wahab has been having leadership positions in UKM in so many capacities, and he's also a well-known researcher in chemical engineering area. And he's a corporate member for Institution Engineers Malaysia. He's a fellow of ICAME, and he's also a fellow of Academy Science Malaysia. Datuk Wahab, maybe you can take the floor now for 15 minutes, inshallah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Thank you, Prof. Datuk Saleh, for that brief introduction. I know I do not have a lot of time. First of all, thank you, Datuk Asma, for a very illuminating presentation, and I'm sure it is appreciated by all of us here that are here today. So I do not have a presentation like Datuk Raha. I'm just going to give some, I've taken notes of your thoughts today and some of my thoughts already that I will discuss today in terms of what we have done in UKM and what we have probably would like to have do it, in order to respond to the challenges that are being thrown by Datuk Asma. I think all of us recognize, the fact that this is what Malaysia needs. I think for the last 10 years, we have been talking about how do we create more impactful research, to the society and to the industry and so on. So what we have here now is actually a broad spectrum of all the initiatives that are possible that the university should look into and probably strategize on how we can do it. But I will also respond with regard to some of the key issues and challenges that I think has to be considered. If I may share my notes on this particular. Okay. All right. Okay. I think what has been presented today is very informative, and I think in terms of the 10-10 STIE framework, it is very comprehensive. The main point that is probably has been emphasized also is in terms of the fact that we now need a multidisciplinary approach towards our research, and this has been emphasized for so long. But probably if you look at the way we are handling research today, most of it are still not enough multidisciplinary impactful research. We have tried in terms of LRGS and in terms of TRGS, etc. But again, at the end of the day, we have not been able, to a certain extent, bring it to a very impactful conclusion to the society. And I agree with you, and the fact I'm happy that Datuk Osman has shown us the fact that in Malaysia, industry participation in research is the least among all the countries that have been shown in that table. So that actually confirms my suspicion that the fact that we need more industries to come in and be part of our R&D ecosystem in order to use the knowledge and findings that we have obtained at the university level and try to put it into something that will be beneficial for the industry, beneficial for the society. I mean, if you look at the way Korea industry works, they are basically working together between industry and university, and how this the university will feed them with the knowledge, and the industry will convert that into useful products and useful commercialization, and both of them are benefiting with the effort by each other. This 10-10 STI framework also introduced us to these advanced technologies that is transforming the world today. And I believe that if we can actually use these advanced technologies to improve the socio-economic drivers, it will be definitely going to transform the country in that sense. And I think Prof. Datuk Asma has explained to us the whole range of R&D ecosystem that is needed for the country. I believe that all of us academicians understand and recognize the need of that. And now the main issue is how are we going to implement it? Yeah, I'm sure most of us have heard about Malaysia is very good at planning, but we may have some problems in terms of implementing and making it to work. Yeah, so that is going to be a very important issues that probably we will have to discuss after, or we'll have to discuss with the ministry, or the academy also have to discuss with the relevant agencies or even industries. This is what I've taken note of the gist of Dr. Asma presentation. Recognize the fact that this requires multidisciplinary approach to R&D. I think this is something that most universities have recognized it. Different ways and approach to do it, and I will share later on how we do it in UKM. The need for strengthening the industry-industry linkage. Again, this is something that is known already, but the problem is, and as pointed out, our industry themselves probably are not looking it in the right way. Yeah, so they are not investing a lot of money in terms of R&D funding. I mean, if you look at, I always give this example when I talk to our researchers, the fact that in Samsung, they have 1,500 PhD working for them. Whereas you can ask the same to our to our GLC like Petronas or Simdabi, how many PhD are working for those big company, and as a result, you see if the big company are not able to provide the right R&D contribution to the country, what can you expect from the small industries? Yeah. So this is again something that we have to ponder upon. Creating collaborative ecosystem. 10 STI-based initiative, Alhamdulillah, this is something that hopefully MOSTI and KPT will be able to drive through together with the universities. Impact-driven research as a way forward, academic impact versus societal impacts. And again, this is something that probably most of us have recognized. And Alhamdulillah, and Dato' Asma has put a lot of emphasis on that today. Malaysia Grand Challenge grants by MOSTI. This is something that definitely the university will be able to take it. Wow, world-class, outstanding, vulnerable technology commercialization accelerator, and the last one, I'm happy with this KPI versus KIP, key performance indicators and key intangible performance. This is again something that we will have to look into, and I agree with you, the fact that our evaluation system for promotion, or even at KPT in terms of the MIRA assessment of the university and so on, they are so much being driven by KPI rather than key intangible performance. And that is why a lot of us are putting a lot of effort in terms of trying to achieve the KPI. And at the end of the day, that's what we are showing to the people, you know, in terms of having the papers published in top journals, maybe books, policy papers, and so on. But I agree with you that key intangible performance is something that is important, that there should be a better way of measuring it, and university must be able to show the key intangible performance in terms for us to move ahead. How do we respond? I can share a little bit about what we have done in UKM. We used, I think Tan Sri Azlan has established Pusat Idea in 2017. At that time, it was meant to manage the so-called Grand Challenge projects for UKM, and basically it is the same thing that that is being emphasized here, whereby our research project should be able to transform or to make some impactful changes to the society. So Pusat Idea was established in 2017 in order to do that. And now we have enhanced its role further by making it as the strategic thinker for R&D, covering all spectrum of the value chain of R&D. Under this Pusat Idea now, we have 5 clusters in UKM, and the 5 clusters covering all spectrum of research areas in UKM. But we ask the cluster head now to enhance multidisciplinary research, and also to really look into the intangible impact of research or societal impact of research, as mentioned by Dr. Asma. And I can share to you one success story. Recently, we have our dentistry faculty obtaining the first CRESS grant outside of engineering. Yeah, I was informed that before this CREST has only given CREST grant to engineering faculty members, but recently they have given it to a dentistry faculty in UKM, whereby she uses advanced material for dental purpose, and she's working with engineering faculty members as well as ICT faculty members in order to realize this research. So that is how these classes are now being asked to not only look at a specific area of research, but try to integrate all the expertise that are there in UKM and making sure that all of them can work together. We in UKM, we have about 13 institutes, and this institute, I can tell you, are meant to do collaborative research and multidisciplinary research within the university for the research team that they have been asked to do. But again, because of the nature of our researcher, sometimes the multidisciplinary research is not really implemented quite successfully, and now we are asking the head of clusters to really look into this and how to bring in more people into the faculty, into the institute, to work together on important research projects that will have a very high or very impactful societal impact. 2 years ago also, our board of directors has agreed to transform one of the UKM institute as the 4th IR Institute. It used to be an institute that is focusing on one of the ICT aspect, but now the board of directors agreed, that they should expand it to include all these 4th industrial revolution aspect, and working with the industry as well as our researcher to use technology drivers, advanced technology drivers that are part of the 4th IR, 4th Industrial Revolution component, and working with industries on those projects that can have changes. So this institute now are working with MARI, are working with a lot of agencies that are relevant to 4th IR, and hopefully we can see some interesting findings and interesting results out of this transformation by the institute. So what I'm saying now, some of the things that Dr. Asma has been emphasizing in terms of multidisciplinary research, in terms of the fact that we need to look at societal impact. This is again something that I'm sure all the research universities are working on it, even though we have not been able to clearly say how successful we are on this matter. This is another question that I keep thinking about, is actually how do we transform our MSc and PhD delivery? I'm sure most of us now, our MSc and PhD delivery is still the same in terms of the same way we write thesis, in terms of the same way we have a very limited scope for our MSc and PhD thesis. This goes back probably 100 years ago. Yeah, but if we want to respond to the STIE framework, I think we need a different delivery approach. We need a different platform or different approach in terms of writing the MSc and PhD thesis. This is something that we have not done. I hope I can convince our Vice Chancellor to do it, and probably look at different ways of having this MSc and PhD delivery. And I also recognize the fact that advanced research knowledge should be, as a research university, we should introduce this advanced research knowledge at the undergraduate level, actually, through projects as well as classes. And this is how we are going to nurture this particular advanced knowledge to the undergraduate students. And hopefully, when they go out to the industry, they will be able to use that knowledge to change the industry, to become better in terms of embracing these advanced technologies and so on. Last one, there are some risk factors which I have recognized in terms of how I want to implement this framework. First of all, is in terms of talents. I recognize that the fact that all our research university, we have a high percentage of PhD lecturers, lecturers with PhD. But are they in terms of the right areas that we want to transform our research? There are not enough people working on technologies such that are important for this thing, which is, for example, sensor technology, 4G, 5G, 4G and 5G technology, advanced intelligence system. I don't think we have enough talent that will be able to look into that at the moment. So this is something that we have to do also. And educational structure and delivery, this is something that I've mentioned before. This is again something that the university should look into and probably change it at the research level, rather than working with something that has been there for the last 100 years. We should be able to introduce a new approach into this. Yeah, for example, probably we have to combine some of the business component for PhD and master studies, if that is necessary, and make it, because after all, if you want to do something to demonstrate certain projects up to the level that is going to be accepted by industry, the fundamental knowledge of the technical knowledge is not enough. It has to be extended into knowledge that will cover the business impact of it, as well as many more other aspects. So this is something that we probably we have to look into. Another factor which I think is also important, and I hope that the KPT will look into, is in terms of research impact evaluation. And again, the university can look in terms of the promotion, but KPT also has to look in terms of the MIRA evaluation. It should not be, it should be KPI versus KIP, as I mentioned before. And finally, I think another risk factor is industry willingness, and I hope the government will have a lot of policy to encourage more industry to be part of this venture, and working with the universities in order to ensure that this policy, that this wonderful plan that Dato' Asma has been presenting, will be successfully implemented. So that's basically, Dato' Saleh, my comment for this, and I think I've taken some time also. I think we will have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Wahab. Actually, you just have exceeded by 1 minute.
Okay.
Which is okay. I couldn't stop you because I see that you are at the last slide, so I just simply couldn't stop you. But thank you very much. I think both of you have actually provided some glimpse of how university would be able to respond to STIE framework. And I do believe that this is not going to be the first and the last conversation that university have. How do we play our role for nation building using this framework, right? And coincidentally, if I may, recently, or today is it, Berita Harian have published a global ranking on an impact, university impact. And I believe that Time Higher Education have actually used United Nations SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, as their indicators, how well universities are actually relating and transferring their know-how, innovation to the communities, to the industries surrounding them. So maybe, just maybe, this impact assessment of external parties, internal parties, and the expectation that we have in the country will drive us in the right direction, hopefully. And after all, we also, as a nation, we all have to actually also address the Sustainable Development Goal that Malaysia have actually signed up to, right? So we have about 15 now, maybe 11 minutes for question and answers. I have 2 or 3 questions here for Dato' Asma to respond to, and I can feel that our academia may be a bit nervous about when we relate to industries, how do we actually deal with industries? I think at individual lectures, we have gone through the experience that it is not easy to penetrate industries and how the system. If I can read, Dato', if I can read the question, I think the questions are related. Is there a good framework to promote university impact research into industry? I mean the system and policy, as well as capable industries to promote it. And I think the additional question, which is actually related with also, is that for the collaborative industry partner, can the collaborative partner comes from international collaborative? I suppose this is related to your Grand Challenge initiative, maybe, yeah? Besides the domestic industries partner, and any rule ratio on domestic versus international collaboration. I think this is very specific questions on that. So Dato', please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the discussants for very interesting response to the subject matter today. First, I will answer the second question. It's easier to answer. For the Malaysia Grand Challenge, yes, it is encouraged to have even international industry also coming in as a part and parcel of the cluster to be able to move the strategic research, etc., for the country. So yes, international collaborators are allowed to come in. So we have the local, we have the international, we have the other agencies, we can have the NGO, we can have the society, community, the whole works to come in and work together on providing a solution to a very big problem of the country that can possibly create the wow factor that can spill over also to the other sectors. Okay, that's one. Do we have a platform that will allow us or train us to move in this such manner? Well, yes, in a way, I think fellows of the academy know ASM has been entrusted to actually do iConnect. So iConnect allow in the 4 areas that we move to halal, fintech, Industry 4.0 and digital health. So these 4 areas that we are moving is exactly example of working together, the collaborative platform with a neutral entity that choreograph this entire platform. Like for example, this is what I mean. If you want to do halal, for example, so or you want to move digital health, we have one neutral entity who understand this, who is doing what, where, whatever, and to create and curate now a picture of what exactly is the solution that we want to offer, what is the problem, what is the solution we want to offer, and to choreograph now all the other industries to now come in and be able to play their role so that we can now provide that kind of solution. So iConnect is one example of this kind of platform that I'm talking about that creates the collaborative ecosystem approach that is also integrated. So that is probably the answer lah, Dato' Saleh. I see the question there, who owns TCA? Maybe that is a fast one that I can answer. Actually, MOSTI is repurposing the agencies under MOSTI to now be able to move TCA. So rather than waiting for one entity to be done by the government, etc., that will take time. So now is to move time because we have already lost so much time, you know. So they MOSTI decided to repurpose some of the entities for MOSTI to now be able to run TCA. So next question, Dato' Saleh.
So we have not seen the question from the chat box, but I have questions related to this is probably theoretical question, but very related to STIE, I suppose. We have been recently focusing to develop automobile sector with a recent flying car projects with advanced use of STI drivers, but we are not even able to develop our domestic solar panel industries, which require less number of parts and components and maybe innovation, though we are one of the world's largest importers of it. So while STI drivers are important to be developed, it is equally, if not more important, to selectively develop manufacturing subsectors that could propel Malaysia to become an advanced nation. So from your opinion, Dato', which one should we prioritize? Technologically advanced sector with no certainty for export, or less technologically advanced sector with high potential exports?
Essentially, the answer to that is that, remember I mentioned about the 8I ecosystem analysis? Ask yourself the question, we are exporter of solar panel, but why is it that this industry is not booming, right? So do they have the kind of support that is now needed within the realm of the 8I? That means, do we have the governance? Do we have the incentive? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have all those things that I mentioned, the partners, etc., that will move? So essentially, it's not about just the technology that we are looking at is about whether the ecosystem is there to move that technology and become and make it to be a pace setter. Like for example, the EE in Penang, it has all, if you look at the AI analysis, it has infrastructure, it has the governance, it has the universities around it, it has whatever it takes to move. And that's why that industry now can become a pace setter in the country and actually, you know, be able to move the good or GDP for the country. So to answer your question, it's not just about the technology. That's why I said it is a framework. STIE is a framework, but at the end day, if you want to make it into a success, that particular thing will now take off or not will depend on the ecosystem. That's why we say now we are not just talking about just having one product. We're looking at, can TCA create the ecosystem to allow now that particular industry to boom in the country, and not that Malaysia doesn't have what it takes. I mean, in terms of mindset, brain, we do have all that, but to make it work, we need the supportive ecosystem to be there, and that's why the entity TCA is that creature is created to make sure that the ecosystem is there to allow any of these industries that is now going to come with indigenous technology, whatever, to now be able to move.
Thank you, Dato'. We have about 4 minutes more for question and answers. And I think there is one question in the chat that is asking about maybe just a platform. Is there any, I think this is very specific, and questions on whether there is a platform for the discussions, collaborations between government, industries, and university. I suppose this is what you refer as TCA. I mean, is this what the TCA is supposed to be doing?
Yeah, that's the economic oriented. Among the things that it's supposed to do is to bring this platform together. But like I said, you don't have to wait for TCA to do that. We can, the webinar allows us to have discussion on this matter. MTDC is doing it. CRES is doing it. So there are so many platforms out there with webinar that you've been listening into. But this is also another platform that can be created by the university. I mean, to me, if I was at USM, CRES is there. So it's a matter of making sure that CRES organize this kind of platform, being a neutral entity to organize platforms such that you can bring the researcher and the industry people together. And as Professor Raha said, truly said, you know, there must be trust between the industry and the university. Tanpa that trust, things are just not going to work. The blame game will still continue, and the chasm continue to get wider and wider between academia and industry. So this is what I said. You know, sometimes the researchers and the industry, no problem, and then we have the legality part that create the problem, because, you know, intellectual property belongs to whom, you know, who is getting the fair share of this. So all these things, mindset breakdown need to happen. You need to break the wall, and this is where I say, as the VC or as the TNC, PNI, make sure facilitate collaboration. So whatever it takes to now collaborate, because once we break that wall, allow now the researcher industry to come together. And I like the concept of the 4th IR Institute, whereby, you know, I think Raha's technology scholars with UKM technology scholars, you know, if you come together and move this, an institute that is created to actually move industry, academia collaboration, might be a way forward that makes sure the function of the institute is to make sure collaboration happens. And this is how we create this new line of academics that is very much in tune to industry needs. A lot of the time when I show you the World Bank report, if you read the report in detail, it says our collaboration is, the word is embryonic. Maknanya not even besar. Is embryonic. That was the word they used in the report. Maknanya no matter what we say, collaborate. A lot of the times the pensyarah, you know, as Dato' Ha was saying, we need to break that mindset, and the only way to do that is the policy or the promotion exercise has got to allow for that, you know, to happen. And this is what I mean, post-COVID, agile response from the university. And this is, you tak payah tunggu KBT pun, it is within the right of the university to actually decide on the promotion exercise of a professor or associate professor, or encourage the young academics who's listening in this particular conversation, how now to show to them their future, where they're going. And definitely I agree, it is a combination, bukan versus, it's a combination of KPI and KIP. Because KPI is needed because for future academic, you need to be a domain expert. You gotta be a scholar in your field. Once you are a scholar in your field, then you can move and create impact. Who's going to listen to you if your knowledge is half-baked? So that's why it is a combination of both, because that is what is required. At the end of the day, as Mark Twain says, knowledge, if it's not going to put to good use, it's not good knowledge. So that will be also in Islam. Being a UIA, now I have to be a bit on those stuff. Being Islam, of course, at the end of the day, God will ask you, what have you done with the knowledge that you have created, right? So this is something that you need to answer as well. So I think that needs to be there, Dr. Saleh.
Thank you very much, Dato. Actually, we have one final question. I think this is a very short question, but if I can get back to the earlier conversation about the platform, even the Ministry of Higher Education have their own bahagian hubungan industries, and I think many universities already starting to have their own incubation center. I think they are starting to recognize the need for technology transfer managers, people who understand the language of the industries and translate the language of the researchers. I think we have already an association called ITMA. I thought you were there when you to actually bring the researchers to the industries, and so all these platforms are there, as Dato mentioned, and the policies are now is also available. It is up to the universities now to actually go ahead and make something happen. Dato, I think this is a very short question, the last one, before we come to your concluding remark. I think the questions is quite interesting in a way that the questioner wants to get a sense of feedback from the industries, how this the 10-10 framework, how the industry's feedback have been actually feeding into this the framework. And
Dato' Saleh, in fact, academy cannot get to where it is in pushing for the policy unless we do mega stakeholder engagement. Layers and layers of industry comes in, to look into the STIE and setakat ni we are getting very good support from the industry. So it has been presented, and when it was presented, it's with the industries together. I think Professor Raha understand this is at the National Science Council, where industry players are also members of that. So to ease all of you, the academic science, whenever we come up with any policy, part and parcel requirement is mega stakeholder engagement. We simply do not come up with the idea, we come with the idea, what do you think about this idea? After we listen to the stakeholder engagement, which includes members of industry, then we now realign or whatever that it takes now to make sure that it's able to move as a policy. So whoever says that a policy can be easily done is not easily done. Engagements, mega engagement. Tired saya cakap pasal I can think, eat, sleep 10-10 my STIE before it gets produced. Then I think, eat, sleep TCA. How to now convince at the policy level, how TCA so that people can terima, So it's not just a matter of engagement with the academic, engagement with the industry. Now it's engagement with the ministries, whether they agree or not for this to take place. Because once they agree, it becomes a national policy. And that's why I say, if you say you agree, then Professor Raha, Ministry of Higher Education is inside that as well. So that's why, to me, academy habis dah lah. So now it's the ministry to make sure collaboration happen. Because 10-10 my STIE, the army to move 10-10 my STIE actually has to be from the academia. That is the engine that's going to move. Because for polytechnic, community college, universities, they are all within that. And that is the army that will move 10-10 my STIE.
Thank you very much, Datuk, for your response. And I think there is no more questions. And I think we're just 5 minutes beyond the time that we're supposed to allow. Maybe we can have 3 to 5 minutes of your concluding remark, and maybe some encouragement, some I don't know what you want to say, 5 minutes, about how university and academia really should move forward.
Them all during the discussion, but first of all, thank you so much for the questions that shows, gives me a feeling of the understanding and where we are heading. And I'm glad that both UKM dengan UTM have also shared their response to show that they are already responding, and as you say, technology transfer office is already there. But we need to move this big time, because being at the university, we can only move our university's ideas, but we need to move the nation. So that means to say, for let's say if you want to move solar system, okay, the idea can come from UKM or can come from UTM, but to move it as a big industry that can become a pace setter, we need the entire ecosystem to be there. And that is where now we need beyond universities. It's not just academia industry. We need now the ministries to come in, the agencies like the neutral entities, the corridors, the northern, eastern, southern corridor, whatever, to now come together and move. And it has to be facilitated. And that's why that ecosystem, in order to make sure it happens, the 8I analysis is so very important. And once we have that, and we have the talent and the skill, inshallah, investment can now come in, and investments to the country. They're all tied together in this entire value chain. I have to be in the pension mode now in order to see. Before, I was hoping that I can see this ecosystem during my lifetime when I'm working and actively as a DG, but it has to be now, when after it all, that I can finally see a policy being there, buy a framework to move it, with money guaranteed to make sure, and with an entity to facilitate it all, and an entity that ensure and to pastikan the ecosystem is created. So that to me is hopefully is a change in the systemic landscape that we want to see, and hopefully it can be implemented well and make a difference. As Datuk Saleh said, a lot of people have downloaded, different countries have downloaded 1010 My STIE. We have the ideas, and somebody else take off with it, and that would be a sad day for me and Islam. So, but I'm so glad UKM, you come up with agile response to this. UTM, you come up with agile response, and I'm sure the other universities listening also have come up with their own way. But we need to move it in a consolidated manner to move the whole country and the whole nation for a fast economic recovery plan. I think that we all need at least post COVID-19 has taught us that agile response is important. Working together in a collaborative manner is where it's at. So after this, I hope you can see it all and make it happen within the university, but make it happen by moving your university with the industry, with the ecosystem. So thank you so much. And I hope whatever discussion today resonates well with the audience and the way forward for your future career for the young academics listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Asma. And again, I think we have actually come to our end of our session. And thank you to all the participants and also our discussants for joining Academy Professor Malaysia's webinars. And this is only one of the platforms that academia should be able to have in order for us to engage through the policies and make life better for Malaysians and also academia. And I would like to just remind everyone that Academy Professor Malaysia is an NGO that is established for professors, and it is no automatic membership. If you like to come and contribute through this platform, by all means, you are most welcome to join the Academy Professor Malaysia. There are a lot of initiatives to to advocate policies for nation building. I think we have we have, Alhamdulillah, we have been having a very active advocacy activities, especially related to food security, socio-economic issues, environmental issues, yeah, and also medical and health issues also there. And by all means, you can always visit our Facebook and also website to learn more about our Academy Professor Malaysia, insyaAllah. Itu mungkin pesanan penaja seperti mana Dato' Asma selalu cakap in most of her session. So thank you again. Probably I'll leave it now to our MC to maybe have a few protocols to do. Thank you very much, everyone, again.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh, for moderating the session. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the ceremony. It is hoped that the lecture and discussion that we had will benefit all of us. On behalf of the Secretariat of APM, I would like to thank everyone for the support and cooperation given, without which this webinar could never be realized. Thank you very much.